from my cold, dead hands. Jeannie got a gun. Jeannie got a gun.
Hello again, Dill Demonic. Remember me? I'm not going anywhere. So, anyway, onto this gun thing. So yeah, it's been a week and a half since the VTech incident. A very sad thing. I'm not really going to spend any more time on it than I have to. But, so anyway, this is prime opportunity, though, for the libertarians to talk down to us mere mortals about gun control. And so I just wanted to bring up a few points. First of all, let me say that I agree with you that, well, first of all, I mean, the Second Amendment isn't going anywhere in this country, and certainly I think it's a very bad idea for any country to outlaw guns or try to do so. So stemming from the basic idea that, you know, why should they curtail your freedom to do so? I mean, there's people legitimately going to firing ranges and things of that nature. So there's no reason to curtail that. I mean, it's a freedom, and unless there's good reason to cut off, to curtail that freedom, then it shouldn't be done. And there are plenty of people who own guns and have never used them for any acts of violence, so we always do need to keep that in mind. That said, well, first of all, I want to talk about assault weapons. I mean, assault weapons, I think, should be banned, because what is the purpose of an assault weapon? I mean, by its very name implies that you're not going to do anything with it but shoot people. I mean, if you want to go hunting, that's fine, but you're not going to use an assault weapon to do so. So, what purpose does it serve to have them legal? I mean, I think there's a definitely legitimate rationale to not allow people to carry assault weapons, because what are you going to be assaulting? I mean, if you're assaulting people, that's wrong. So that's out. Second of all, I want to play a clip from Sinro. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but he says it pretty well. Listen to it.
You said everybody should be strapped. I gotta think, who the fuck wants to walk around somewhere where everybody else is fucking strapped, and you don't know who happens to be fucking unstable on this particular day? You don't know who just got fired, who had a fight with their parents, who just caught their wife cheating on them in their bed while their dog was watching them videotaping it. That personally, I'd almost be paranoid if I just don't see that.
So he said it pretty well. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that too. And this is not based in data or anything like that, but just my personal feeling. If I were to walk around in public, in a public space, and have the knowledge that everyone was carrying a gun, everyone was packing, then I just wouldn't feel too comfortable about that. And I'd be very interested to know, would you really feel that much safer if you walk around in a big public space and everyone was carrying a gun? I mean, it just doesn't feel right. And, you know, what is to stop someone from, when someone cheats on them or they get fired or something? I mean, me personally, when I experience big shocks like that, when someone does something really to really piss me off, like road rage for one thing, when someone does something to really piss me off, that there's a brief moment when I'm just completely like white with fury, you know? Have you ever felt that way? And you know, I mean, I'm not saying that you or I would pick up a gun at that point, but do you think that statistically, if everyone carried a gun, wouldn't that be more of a incentive for violence? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that that wouldn't be. The whole thing feels to me, this whole rationale of people carrying guns as a deterrent, it feels kind of like the arms race, the nuclear arms race in the 50s, and which was not a very happy time. I mean, and a lot of my elementary schools still had the old duck and cover posters from the 50s. So I don't know. It just reminds me of that. It's a bit of a tangent, but also moving on to some data. And let me put up a graph here. This, first of all, is from the UN, so, and, you know, you might just go the route of saying, okay, well, we can't trust the UN, they're corrupt and everything, but for the purposes of this argument, let's assume that this data is correct. Now, one of the things I wanted to point out is, first of all, the correlation doesn't seem to be as strong as you would have us believe. And that's just me off of this, and you know, there's definitely, this is not the final authority on the subject, but I mean, to portray it as there's a definite causality between more guns and less violence, I think is a bit misleading. There's a lot more to it than that. Also, in this graph, and again, you know, you could argue that it's wrong, but let's just assume that it's correct. I mean, it is the UN after all, and that's not an entirely unsafe assumption. Let's just assume that it's correct. So the highest country on here has about 30% gun ownership. Now, what if there was a country that had 100% gun ownership? Do you think that that would really be safe? Do you think the correlation really is linear? Or do you think that there could also be a more parabolic, I guess, correlation, in that there's a certain sort of optimum percentage of gun ownership, and then beyond that, violent crimes will start to increase again? You know, so far in my research, I haven't been able to find an example of 100% gun ownership, so we can't really know. But I don't really want to find out, first of all, and yeah, I don't want to relive the days in which, you know, you could look at someone funny and they challenge you to a duel and you'd have to march off 10 paces and whatnot. So there's that. So how do we know that 100% gun ownership is going to solve all our problems? One more thing I wanted to say, and this pertains to somewhat to the VTech situation. The pro-gun people are saying, okay, well, if only everyone had a gun, then they could have just shot him, and that would have been that, which is true. But I think it's more important, like a lot better would be to say, if only we had a defensive weapon, not necessarily a gun. Like a weapon, ideally a weapon that could knock people unconscious, that like sane citizens could easily deem to be a threat. I mean, suppose we had really good tasers that could, suppose someone could have shot that guy and zapped him to unconsciousness, then that would have been even better to me than someone having shot him, because it would have prevented just as well the loss of life, and it also would have meant that they could have locked this guy up. I mean, I'd rather see him locked up than see him get shot and killed. I'd like to see him locked up for that, to pay for what he's done. But where is I going with this? People so eager to get guns in the hands of people. I mean, why is it automatically guns? Why can't we make the distinction that it needs to be, yes, evil people are going to get their hands on guns no matter whether they're legal or not, but the law-abiding citizens, why isn't it emphasized they should have defensive weapons, not necessarily guns? Something that could knock someone out, you know? And like I said earlier, you know, 100% gun-owning society, well, who's to say that petty personal issues would be, who's to say that like people would be sane enough to keep that away from, to keep their emotions from letting them get upset and shoot people? So we need, the focus needs to be on defensive weapons, not on guns necessarily. So yeah, give that a little thought, and hope to hear from you this time. Alright, peace out.